I went into the class and I said, class, how many of you have ever heard of BTS? And like 5 hands went up in the air. And I said, oh my God, before you get out of college, those of you who are freshmen and sophomores, before you leave college, you will know who BTS is. BTS is one of the most profoundly global music phenomenons that the world has ever seen. And you will know who they are and what they are. And BTS is this band that blew up in popularity on the other side of the world. If you want to be global, and if you want to consider yourself or go out and work in the global economy, if you want one of these like really cool jobs where you're just sitting around and connecting with people all over, and you don't know who these folks are, you're never going to get to where you think you want to go.
미국 펜실베니아 대학교의 강의 시간. 강단에서 무시무시한 경고를 하는 이 대학 교수는 우리나라에서도 잘 알려진 펜실베니아 주립대 사회학과 샘 리처드 교수입니다. 아주 예전부터 코리안 웨이브, 즉 한류를 이해하고 받아들이는 것이 중요하다고 강조해오던 그는 강의 시간에 먹방을 하기도 하고 학생들의 BTS 커버 무대를 위해 자리를 내어주기도 했습니다. 코로나 동안 BTS, 블랙핑크뿐만 아니라 기생충, 킹덤, 오징어 게임과 같은 한국 컨텐츠 등이 강세를 이루면서 그의 주장이 주목받고 있는데요. 2021년 9월 10일 그는 강의에서 한류 문화에 대해 자세하게 소개하는 시간을 가졌습니다. 함께 보시죠.
I'm going to introduce you to this phenomenon called Hallyu. How many have heard of the Korean wave? Oh my gosh. And what we're talking about is Korean culture and K-entertainment. Why I think this is something that you very much want to pay attention to. Because it's here, it's all around us, it's all around the world, and if you have any ideas of wanting to be global in the way that you see the world, you're going to want to pay attention to how this thing has grown.
이렇게 강의의 시작을 알린 그는 강의 시간 동안 한 가지 재미있는 것을 하는데요. 바로 강단 옆에 음식을 차려놓고 한국 학생들과 다른 외국인 학생에게 먹방을 시킨 것이었습니다. 나이지리아계 외국인이 한국 음식을 체험하는 먹방을 다른 한국인 학생 2명이 함께 참여하는 형태로 진행되었습니다.
Here's the phenomenon. So about 8 years ago, I stumbled upon these mukbang videos. And mukbang means broadcasting eating. It's like broadcast eating, right? And so what people were doing, and we showed them live here in class. One time, for nearly the entire class, we watched a mukbang video, and it just was running on the screen. And so this phenomenon that started in Korea, whereby people would eat, and just eat ungodly amounts of food, my friend, right? Ungodly amounts of food. And then people would send money to them. And people started making a lot of money. There are mukbangers that are making so much money. Do you know how to use chopsticks? Dude, they're going to teach you how to use chopsticks too.
한국인 학생들이 외국인 학생에게 젓가락질을 가르쳐주고 교수는 먹방을 보여주는 것을 시작으로 강의를 이어나갑니다.
This is a perfect way to start this class because this is this thing that started in Korea but then just took off and blew up all over the world. So here's something about Korea. Korea has had an historical experience unlike probably anything the world has ever seen. In 1965, the GDP of the UK was $100 billion. And in Korea, it was $3.1 billion. And then look what happened going into 2020. Look what Korea did. It's unprecedented. Korea grew $1.6 trillion. No country has ever done this sort of thing, has ever grown like that. This is me as a teacher talking to my students. Because college and going to school is about learning which things we should pay attention to. That, my friends, is something you want to pay attention to. Any country that could do that and didn't have some natural resource that was just somehow worth a lot of money like oil or natural gas or something, any country that can do that is a country that you want to pay attention. What did they do? What happened? That we're going to talk about today that's most fascinating to me. There's hard power and there's soft power. And hard power is military and economic power, and soft power is persuasion. It's the ability to get what you want without having to resort to force, either economic force or military force. And Korea said, look, we're never going to compete with the strongest nations of the world militarily and economically. Like, we're not going to compete at that level. But we can do something else. And we can use soft power. And we can use some kind of persuasion to make it happen. And we can find a way to push our culture out into the world. Korea decided, hey, we can take our culture, which we think is pretty cool, we can package it, we can refine it, we can get really good at what it is we do, we can invest in it, and we can promote Korean culture around the world. And Korea has done that unlike any nation that I've ever seen. A big part of what I want to talk about is K-pop and K-drama and K-film.
이렇게 강의를 시작한 그는 K-팝의 대표적인 그룹인 BTS에 대해서 이야기를 하며 시작했는데요. 실제 BTS의 팬인 학생 2명의 도움을 받아 강의를 진행했습니다.
Can you guys explain the army?
It's
Are you part of the army?
Yeah, I'm Army. It's literally just a fan name. But there's so many BTS fans that it's like literally an army, sort of. So it's very fitting.
Last time I talked about BTS, I don't know what happened in class. The army came after me one time. I thought this is it for me. This is the end of my career because the BTS army is what happened was I showed a photo of I forget who it was, but there was a big commotion in the classroom as a result of it. The video goes out into the world, and people who were looking at the video had this idea that someone had the idea that I was making fun of BTS. But what happened was the camera happened to zero in on some super rabid army fans, and they were just so excited that these people that they loved were on the screen and that we were going to talk about them, that they just got really excited. They weren't laughing at all. They weren't making fun. I wasn't making fun of them. But the army, certain people in the BTS army thought that I was, and they were trying to cancel me. It's like, oh my God, right? It was, and I thought this is the end of my career because these people are serious, man. They're like in the tens of millions, right? You know, I was walking down the street in Lima, Peru one time, and I was actually in a car, and I just saw this poster of it was a BTS poster in this like old restaurant, and I had the person stop. And I had to get out, and I had to go ask him, why do you have that poster up here? Like, how did you get a poster of BTS in the middle of Lima, Peru, in this old restaurant that had nothing to do with anything? And they're like, oh, we love BTS. And I thought, geez, it was really amazing, The first time I talked about K-pop was probably about 5 years ago. And it was right after BTS. And I'm sure most all of you know who BTS is. It was the first time that BTS broke a record that was held by Taylor Swift as the most sales in a 24-hour period. And I had heard of BTS. I knew BTS. I had listened to BTS. But it was this record that beat a record from Taylor Swift that people never imagined that they were going to beat. I went into the class and I said, class, how many of you have ever heard of BTS? And like 5 hands went up in the air. And I said, oh my God, before you get out of college, those of you who are freshmen and sophomores, before you leave college, you will know who BTS is. BTS is one of the most profoundly global music phenomenons that the world has ever seen. And you will know who they are and what they are. And BTS is this band that blew up in popularity on the other side of the world. If you want to be global, and if you want to consider yourself or go out and work in the global economy, if you want one of these like really cool jobs where you're just sitting around and connecting with people all over, and you don't know who these folks are, you're never going to get to where you think you want to go.
샘 리처드 교수는 이전부터 BTS와 K-팝에 관심을 가지고 있었고 사회학자로서 전 세계적으로 불어오는 한국 콘텐츠의 인기를 주의 깊게 관찰하고 있었습니다. 그리고 자신의 강의를 들으러 온 학생들에게 앞으로 세계적인 사람이 되기 위해서는 이 흐름을 항상 주의 깊게 보라고 말하기도 했죠. BTS뿐만 아니라 그는 강의에서 세븐틴, 엑소, 블랙핑크, 트와이스 등 세계적인 인기를 얻고 있는 다른 가수들에 대해서도 설명하면서 앞으로 이 현상들이 꾸준히 발생할 것이라 설명했습니다. 만약 이 강의를 듣고 싶으신 분들을 위해 고정 댓글을 달아두겠습니다. 강의가 한국어 자막을 지원하지 않아 한국어로 편집을 해보았습니다. 오늘의 영상은 여기까지입니다. 시청해 주셔서 감사합니다.